welcome to the NewsX Sunday Garden Roundtable. Well, today we are discussing a phenomena that's come up, I think, in the last 7 years, BJP versus the rest, or at least that's what the BJP likes to believe. But there is a getting together of the opposition. I think perhaps it's because of the fact that Prime Minister Modi is still way ahead, so his ratings may be tanking a bit, but there's a huge gap still between him and any other opposition leader. So the opposition seems to have decided to to bind together as one unit and take on the PM and the BJP and hope that this strategy works. The only problem is they tried it before the last Lok Sabha elections and it didn't work. But what is the new that they have to offer, especially with the light of the coming assembly elections? Joining me to discuss this, I have with me Amit Malviya. He is the national head of the BJP's Information and Technology Cell. I have Smita Prakash. She is the editor-in-chief of the ANI. And Sanjay Jha. He is a suspended Congress leader, but also still a congressman at heart, as you'll see from this debate. Amit, I'll begin with you. This has happened before, this whole BJP versus the rest combination. How do you react to that?
Well, Priya, the thing is that we get too consumed by these arithmetic calculations as far as polls are concerned. What we miss is that an election is not just about numbers alone. It is a lot about chemistry. It's a lot about leadership. It's a lot about the vision that you have for the country. And I think in the last 7 years, particularly since Prime Minister Modi rose to power, there has been a deficit of all these three as far as opposition is concerned. So I keep hearing the opposition wanting to come together. They occasionally do share a stage, and then you start seeing one of them missing one event after the other. But forget the optics of politics. What is the vision that the opposition today has for the country, which is different, if not better, than what Prime Minister Modi and the BJP have to offer? That is the question that the electorate today is asking, because it's an aspirational vote today as far as India's democracy is concerned. And none of the opposition leaders have an answer for that. And secondly, will any opposition party cede space for the other? Like I keep asking, in Bengal, will Mamata Banerjee accommodate the left and the Congress for that matter? In Kerala, will the Congress and the left come together if they are facing each other off? Similarly, in Tamil Nadu and in Andhra Pradesh and in Telangana, what is it that Mamata Banerjee brings to, say, KCR in Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, YSRC in Andhra? The fact is that each of these political parties are going to fight for survival, and there is no way that they can come together and form this coalition. So these things put together, I think it is a non-starter. But if the opposition wants to indulge itself and believe that there is a room for a third front to the fourth front, they are free to do it. And I don't blame them, because this country has seen political formations which have been all over the place. And you've seen accidental prime ministers and genuinely accidental prime ministers. And I don't mean Dr. Manmohan Singh. So the fact is that everybody thinks that they have a chance and they want to make an attempt. Everybody is free to indulge themselves.
And to take Amit's argument forward, the fact is that the opposition is fighting each other at the state level, yet wanting to come together at the Lok Sabha time. Now, therein lies the contradiction. How do we overcome that?
See, Priya, I think there is no denying the fact that the BJP remains in pole position. It is still the largest national formation. It's a formidable player, both at the center and in several very crucial states of India, particularly Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and now even Madhya Pradesh. But, the reality of the Indian, complexity of our actual politics is that regional alliances are almost now becoming the natural default option at the larger national stage. And it has been a successful experiment. I remember as somebody who's been a very, ardent follower of the Congress party's political history, that in 1989, when Rajiv Gandhi lost, it was expected thereafter that, all coalitions will be a disaster following VP Singh's, dramatic, kind of collapse. But the truth is that for 25 years, till Mr. Modi had this spectacular spectacular triumph in 2014, bringing BJP with 282 seats, you did have coalitions in the country. And many of them were led by Amit's party, which was Mr. Vajpayee's government. And, one can criticize X and Y governments, but the truth is they were stable. And there were internal contradictions. So both the BJP and the Congress between 2004 and 14 and the BJP earlier actually had reasonably successful run in managing, I would call, diametrically opposing political formations who were competing at the state level, but were collaborative or collegial at the central level. So these things have worked. And the other reality, Priya, is that coalitions have delivered good performance. Mr. Vajpayee's government did well on many fronts. I'm not going to take that away from them. And Mr. Manmohan Singh's government gave you an average of 8% GDP growth over 10 years. And lifted 270 million people out of poverty. This happened despite the last 2 years of the policy paralysis or whatever we call it. So I do believe that in India, you are going to witness this churn. At the moment, in my opinion, the opposition, Priya, is seeing an opportunity largely because of two reasons. One is there is a certain political hubris within the BJP, and I don't blame that. It can happen when you're winning all the time. It is almost inevitable. It happens. So if today Amit comes on the show and says we cannot be defeated for 50 years like Amit Shah said, well, he has reason to believe it. But history tells you that no party wins all the time. The BJP may actually do well by 2024 and still lose an election. So I think the opposition is seeing an opportunity. Yes, it is a process. It's a work in progress. But looking at the general state of the, I would say, an economy, society, post-pandemic world, they have every reason to believe that things can turn around.
You heard both sides of the argument, but I am Sanjay. At the end of the day, also I am. The law of gravity cannot be the opposition strategy. There has to be, something more than that. I'll let Smita, your takeaway from both of what they've said, and what do you feel about this whole BJP versus the rest coalition coming together?
Well, I partially agree with both the panelists. A coalition is. Whether a coalition is successful or not is post-election scenario. As far as the BJP is concerned, let me talk about the opposition unity firstly. We are still 2.5 years before elections take place. At this stage, the opposition unity, which is against the BJP and against Modi in particular, it's a stuttering no-starter. It's being fronted by two sets of people with cross purposes. One set can't win elections. They have no representation. Some of them are dynasts. They are sporadic politicians who live in South Delhi, South Bombay. They forget about capacity or capability of rejuvenating their own organizations. They cannot build bridges with political parties. They cannot build pathways where they have commonality of purpose other than we hate BJP or we hate Modi. So for them to form alliances even at this stage is hard. The second set of people who are fronting this in the opposition is our chief ministers who have vaulting ambitions, whose regional parties revolve around them. So, for them, they have won elections, they have won with large mandates, and they are in this bubble of Aham Brahmasmi. That is that I am the supreme and there is one supreme and I am the supreme. So each of them exists in that bubble and they have a support base based just in their region, but they are ready to take on Modi by 2024 and want the others to play a supporting role. Now, does BJP take any of these regional satraps as low rung or not really a threat? They might make these statements, but the way I have seen the BJP function over the years, they don't see anybody as a non-threat. They work with this single point agenda that anybody can. If Deve Gowda and Gujral and Chandrasekhar maybe to some extent could become prime ministers with such small numbers, anybody can. So I don't think the BJP dismisses any regional leader as possibility. So what they have at this point of time, halfway through their second term in office, that if they have to win 2024, it is first discredit any of these regional leaders as a challenge to Mr. Modi. And second, they are working in these 100-day agendas, these chakras which they all have, where targets are given to union ministers, targets are given to chief ministers, and they have to function and deliver on them. So if no ifs and buts are given, no leeway is given, you have to achieve this, because this is what is going to win us 2024. This is what is going to make us deliverables. And this is even legacy building for the BJP to show what they have done in 2 successive terms.
Your best bet really is the weakness of the Congress, because if you see the BJP versus in that regional levels, you don't often win those fights, whether it's even Mamata Banerjee or even a Nitish Kumar or a Arvind Kejriwal. It's only the Congress that you can defeat. So what happens if this thing actually comes through and a Mamata Banerjee or even a Kejriwal or somebody else is the face of the fight against Prime Minister Modi, and Rahul Gandhi says, which he has said, that I will be the supportive role, I won't be the face. What happens to them?
Well, Priya, the first point that I want to make in response to the question that you've put is about the coalition itself. If you remember Mr. Vajpayee's era, the coalition was called NDA, and NDA had political parties who were allying in the states as well. So they were not against each other in states and had come at the center. That is the big difference between what you are seeing today as far as the opposition is concerned and as far as aspirations of regional leaders is concerned. The second part of your question is, what if a Mamata Banerjee or an Arvind Kejriwal or even an Akhilesh Yadav, why discount him? I mean, he also has a right to aspire for the top job of the country. If any of these want to position themselves to be the prime ministerial face, will the others accept? Forget about these regional leaders. I want to ask a very specific question. Sonia Gandhi has seen near decimation of the Congress party to ensure that her son continues to be in the corner office. Will she accept the leadership of Mamata Banerjee? And will a Sharad Pawar, who has been the prime minister and waiting for the longest time, suddenly accept Mamata Banerjee as the prime ministerial face who could not win her own election from Nandigram? So there are a lot of these questions that will be raised, and it will be near impossible for these opposition leaders to reconcile to them. Because let's not forget that they are not going to be looking at just 2024. They are also going to be looking at their own survival and not just their own parties. Remember, these parties are personal fiefdoms. So Sharad Pawar will be concerned about what his daughter will inherit. Or for that matter, Lalu Prasad Yadav will always be thinking about how to make Tejaswi the chief minister. So these are not easy contradictions to resolve. Unlike the BJP, who had no problems with Mr. Vajpayee being the face at one point in time, and then Mr. Advani, and then finally Mr. Modi taking over in 2014 and taking us across the red lines. So we have to understand that the people that we are dealing with are not the same as the ones that you have on the other side. We are essentially people, in the sun at the moment, and we could fade away tomorrow and walk out and somebody else will take over. But in these regional parties, and tell me one exception where they are not family-run businesses. Even Mamata Banerjee today has a nephew waiting in the wings. So how do you reconcile that bit? And, how do they come up with a pre-poll alliance of sorts where there aren't these competing interests? That's a question that the opposition needs to answer and go to the people with a plan, a vision, and a leadership.
I'm going to take this question to Sanjay Jha, who's actually been working behind the scenes with various opposition leaders, both within and outside the Congress, if I may say so.
Priya, as a political commentator, as an editor, you are aware that every time before an election, people have the natural cynicism and skepticism over coalition politics. So what Amit is saying is not new, right? We know that every time we talk of alliances and most of them compete in one place and they are partners somewhere else. This is a hard, grim reality of Indian politics. But I think what we need to recognize at this point of time is that extraordinary situations demand an extraordinary solution. And I have been, as you know, looking at the back end of a lot of these, opposition efforts.
Extraordinary situations.
And I can tell you, I know that in politics, people have massive egos, and they are extremely kind of fragile in terms of their public perceptions. But I see people coalescing together. I see a collaboration emerging, simply because I think at some point people have understood that you got to take a call between a very short term and the medium term. The long term is too far away, and I think people have recognized that. Listen, the BJP is only becoming stronger by the day, undoubtedly. Amit is right that the Congress has to be the linchpin of this entire, kind of a coalition arrangement. And we ourselves have, frankly speaking, been disastrous in the way we have emerged as a fighter to the BJP. So these are the things that need to be addressed. There are obvious fault lines. But what we need to understand here is that the arithmetic is the ultimate, although, Amit said it's not the arithmetic, but arithmetic does become the foundation of an electoral arrangement. Essentially, everyone who's not with the BJP, which is now practically the entire political ecosystem today, I think sees that there is a vacuum emerging. Take an example of what Amit's party is going through, Priya. Today, they don't have the Shiv Sena, which was once upon a time their most enduring ally in Maharashtra. And even the Shiromani Akali Dal has left them in Punjab. And Amit will know it better than me that, Nitish Kumar remains, an extremely dicey bet. And that's they can't probably be banking on him with the kind of confidence they had in the earlier two regional, or rather, shall I say, more identity-based politicians or politics of Shiv Sena and the Shiromani Akali Dal. So the BJP today is actually without a single, what I would call as a force in the regions of India. It has no partner at all. And this, frankly, in my opinion, is going to be the key to 2024. You see, the BJP has ridden on the back of Shiv Sena to overtake them in Maharashtra. It actually used its alliance with Nitish to completely overwhelm them in Bihar. Now, people have understood that this party runs differently. I got to give credit to the BJP. They are extremely brutal in terms of their ambition. They are relentless in the pursuit of power, and they are unrelenting in annihilating the opposition. I believe that is the politics of the day, and that's the way it should be played. Unfortunately, the Congress doesn't have the kind of hunger it needs. But things can change. The opposition clearly is seeing a space.
Let's talk about Prime Minister Modi, because, as Sanjay said, the allies are leaving the BJP, yet the BJP is holding strong. So, Smita, it all comes down to the cult of one person. Do you think his cult will be strong enough to last the next elections? Will it be Modi more than Yogi in the UP elections? Is he still the most dominant playing card they have?
He is the most charismatic leader in the BJP. There's no denying that. And there's Modi and Shah combined. They have won elections for the party. So the party will not think of reinventing the wheel. Why should they? This is a winning combination. It's winning them general elections as well as state elections. West Bengal and Delhi didn't work because you had regional leaders who gave a good run for the money, and BJP lost in that. But I think by 2024, the BJP will have to do less and the other parties will have to do more, right? So when we are looking at the cult of Modi, that cult of Modi is seeing no damage. If it could not get dented after COVID's second wave, I mean, everything, the economy, everything tanked, right? If even after that, the cult of Modi has not seen a hit so far. Let's see, maybe the next elections will show whether that really saw a hit.
Correct, because he slipped in the opinion poll ratings a bit.
So let's see whether basically your gauge is the election. The polls, newspapers, magazines, it really doesn't matter, right? It's the elections. If he loses, if they lose in Uttar Pradesh or they lose in Gujarat, which is like, again, a remote possibility, and in Punjab, they are nowhere there. So it doesn't matter really. So let's see how that works out. But to come to the point about, the Congress being the pollstar, was it, who said that it is the Congress which will have to do the heavy lifting in the opposition, and Rahul Gandhi saying he doesn't mind being a supporting factor. I mean, that itself is such a weak statement. Just look at this. It's the only organization which had a countrywide or still has a countrywide base, and your presumably the leader of the party says that he will play a supporting role. And supporting role after 2 elections? Is this what is needed from a party which is supposed to give the BJP and Modi a run for their money? Where? You're looking at a state of stasis in a party for 7 years and already admitting that that stasis will not go in the next 2.5 years. You will see spokespersons in debates fighting it out. You will see on social media journalists batting for the Congress party, but you're not seeing the Congress party doing the heavy lifting. Their top tier in the party, they have had uninterrupted power for so many decades that they just are so entitled that they just think that the BJP will commit mistakes and leave on their own.
The Congress needs Amit Malviya.
Poverty. It's really a political poverty. They just sit together. Whatever I'm seeing of happening in the Congress is just us sitting together in drawing rooms in South Bombay or South Delhi and talking about the good old days of yesteryears and what has India come to today? I mean, the sell-by date of this bunch of leaders is over. The second bunch of leaders who can do things, unfortunately, in the Congress are this extreme leftists. Somewhere a middle path needs to be brought, and why should anybody tell them this? Even journalists who are telling them this, they don't want to hear. Advisors, influencers, anybody telling them this, they don't want to hear. They just want to know, and they just want a repetition of that echo chamber saying that India's gone to the dogs.
We have someone from the drawing room of South Mumbai with us. Sanjay, you want to hear Amit and then rebut both, or you want to come in quickly?
Well, I do agree that I live in that address, but I can't disagree with Smita here. I think she's been pretty dispassionate and forthright. The problem with the Congress is that for a long time, and I'm saying so because I have been part of that entire battles that have happened, that we were foolishly assuming that the BJP was only going to be a one-trick pony or, a fly-by-night operator party that would win 14 and will be wiped out in 19. No, the BJP cannot win 2 successive Lok Sabha elections. I think that attitude of complacency has cost us dear. And she's absolutely right that, politics has to be fought. I mean, you need all kinds of people, right? You need an Amit Malviya doing an IT. You need somebody sitting in a South Mumbai and drawing strategy. You need somebody doing communication. You need somebody doing fundraising, somebody doing the rallies in the month, somebody going to the streets. That's what politics is about. So I do believe that there's nothing wrong in having, academic or intellectual discussions. But the bottom line in politics is you got to get your hands and feet dirty. You got to be out on the street. You got to mobilize. And that's where the political leadership is the key. For example, I mean, we are all, pretty, well-educated people on the show. Politicians have to lead at the rostrum. They have got to be at the bully pulpits. They have to be talking to media. You got to be on social media. You got to do these knock on doors. And I think the Congress has really missed that story. I think the democratic nature of the Congress is withered, Priya. You and I have talked about it so often. It's not difficult to beat Mr. Modi. It's not very difficult to beat the BJP today. I believe that the Congress and the opposition can form the government in 2024. But if they got to do everything, knock on doors, give interviews to Priya Sehgal, talk to Rahul Shivshankar, talk to anybody in the media, get your narrative going. And I don't think the opposition, particularly the Congress, is yet understood this key fundamental message.
I think, Amit, you'll find yourself agreeing with Sanjay Jha more than disagreeing with him today. But
just a couple of points. He spoke about arithmetic dominating electoral calculations. And I want to remind your viewers that in 2014, nobody gave the BJP an outside chance to get full majority, but we did get 282. Arithmetic did not prevail. Similarly, you spoke about allies. In 2014, the JDU contested the election on their own, and the BJP swept Bihar. And in 2019, we got them together, we shared seats, and they got a sizable number of seats in their kitty on the name of Mr. Modi. The Shiv Sena today has parted ways with us to form a government with the NCP and the Congress. But the fact is that they contested the election on Prime Minister Modi's name and on Devendra Fadnavis's chief ministership and the work that the alliance had done. So today, if there is an election in Maharashtra, clearly the people's vote is going to be in favor of the BJP, alliance or no alliance. Similarly, in Punjab, the BJP has always been a smaller player, and the Shiromani Akali Dal parted ways with us because of local compulsions in Punjab. The Congress was, pushing up this farmer agitation, and they thought that they would lose out if they continued to be in the government. So it's not because there has been an ideological, divergence between the two of us. So let's understand what these alliances were all about and why they aren't there at the moment, and why they don't really matter when you go to an election with Mr. Modi on the cards, because you are going to elect the prime minister of this country, and Mr. Modi will have a lot to speak about what he's done in the office in the last 10 years. So again, I come back to the point that where is the vision? Where is the leadership? Now, Sanjay speaks about knocking the door, but what are you going to go and tell the people when you knock at their doors? You just can't be saying that let's get Mr. Modi out because we want to get into power. What is it that you are going to do differently? Can Rahul Gandhi be the face? Can Mamata Banerjee be that face? Because Bengal and India are not the same. And the politics of Mamata Banerjee in Bengal cannot be replicated across the country. So there are too many issues here, and the opposition, frankly, other than their desire to dislodge Mr. Modi and somehow get into office because they seem to miss it, the nostalgia is too much. They have nothing more than that to offer to the people of this country. And lastly, Priya, I also believe that the time when the opposition, which is largely left-leaning, govern this country has gone by. Today, the average Indian is more aspirational in its electoral choices. He's looking at a party that would resonate with his own ideas. There are several mediums like social media, proliferation of websites, new channels and television channels, which get the message across to him without any excessive editorializing. And people therefore realize what the truth is. And that is why, despite all that the opposition has done or want to do as in terms of discrediting Mr. Modi or this government, it hasn't worked. And I don't think it's going to work even in 2024.
The battle for discrediting, I think, has been played from both sides. Sanjay, I know you want to come in, but we are totally out of time. So we'll get you all back in together for that conversation. But what happens in the coming elections? If the Congress that has a fighting chance in Uttarakhand, Punjab and Goa, what if it wins 3 of the 5 seats? Can it get its act together for that? Can it then turn the narrative around? Or will it again bring in more self-goals like it has done in Punjab? That's something we're going to wait and watch. But for now, that's it. Thank you for watching this show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.